Are you looking at the right indicators for this market? Are you confused by the fact that this crypto went down after the Fed? I thought it was supposed to go up. Well, if you watch this video all the way through, I'm going to explain what happened post-Fed. I'm going to give you the indicators that you need to figure this out in the future. And I'm going to give you 5 altcoin picks. Some stuff we've already given our Patreon members and YouTube members, so they're all tucked in and ready. So it'll be 5 coins that'll give you a sample of what we do, and it'll kind of match up with our indicators because we want you looking at the right stuff. I am your host, Bill Noble. If you like these morning streams or you want to get those streams on your phone via the shorts feed, you subscribe to this channel. Turn on the alerts and make sure you hit the like button on the way out now or later on today. Okay, let's talk about retail. Retail out there in the world is buying stonks, right? They can't buy enough tech stocks, AI stocks, and you really have to ask yourself, is that the smart trade? No one is interested in crypto, as you can tell, because, altcoins will go up for 3 days and down for 3 days. Meanwhile, they can't stop buying the high over in stocks. Now, the fact that there's a bid for stocks is a good thing, but retail is buying the wrong trade. The way to trade AI, the way to trade the future is to be trading DeFi, crypto liquidity, which we'll talk about in our altcoin picks that you're going to stay tuned for. Okay. And as we say in the YouTube member podcast, the rails that the world will work on in the future is not necessarily big tech companies. It's going to happen in the decentralized world of crypto because what those characters are doing is very expensive. It requires government support. It's not profitable, and it may not be, dare I say, pro-human. In other words, it's not designed to work in your favor. It's designed to work in theirs. Data collection and the like. So the best trade right now is the ignored trade. And we're going to talk about some things that are going to help you, get on top of that. Describe this sort of neutral situation that we're in. So let's jump into that. The Fed came out and everyone expected something to happen. And of course, nothing was going to happen except they gave you sort of a token rate cut. The entire Fed's divided. And Elon came out with something this morning that I think is very relevant. He said basically the government, which includes the Fed, is unfixable. It's unfixable. Now, if it's unfixable, that in itself creates the bid for definitely the big cryptos, definitely Bitcoin and Ethereum, and of course, Solana and XRP. And I continue to believe that even if the market wanted to go down, XRP and Solana are pretty much holding it up, right? In other words, you can't really get material downside in altcoins today because those 2 coins are holding up. Now, that said, the solar eclipse is tomorrow. The fall equinox is in the next 2 days, so on the 22nd. Now, if there's a downtick in crypto during this 2-day period, I think that's your chance. Okay, we went over this in the YouTube member podcast, and let's just say that my host made it very clear what you should be doing and when you should be doing it. Even though some of these indicators we're going to talk about are flat in a way, I think as we titled the last stream, this is the last dip. Now, of course, if you want to know more about it, if you want the real details and additional VIP coin picks, you want to go over and subscribe to the member channel. But the solar eclipse, the Gann events, the equinox, that's kind of like the official start of fall. These things are like inflection points for markets. They can be. And this sideways movement, this annoying movement, may end at that time. Now, one of the things we're going to focus on today is liquidity. So let's jump in to like our indicators. First thing you want to be looking at is like stable coin printing, right? The cash hose. How much money is actually coming into the market? Now, right now it's flat, which is laughable, right? Stablecoin inflows have not been huge because, price action has not lured people in. Price action is luring people into equities. So one of the reasons why the market is flat, is flows are not tremendous. Flows are supportive, which keeps the market from going lower, but it's definitely not party time. Of course, naturally, when it is party time and the market is pumping, you'll say to yourself, gee, I wish I had gotten in when it was quiet, which again is another theme from the YouTube member area. In other words, ask yourself a question. Do you own enough crypto? Then if you look at some of the scenarios we've got, there could be, if there's going to be a dip, you're going to see it soon. And that's something you want to be ready for. Now, crypto ETF inflows. So there's always a lot of hype around, crypto ETFs, like XRP ETFs come out, very exciting. Grayscale comes out with something, or new regulations come out where, you can have like large scale issuance of ETFs, right? So we don't have to sit around and wait for, this ETF comes out and everyone genuflects and sits down in their chair for a while. And then another one comes out. You know what I'm saying? It's like, let's get it going. But right now, it's kind of neutral. Why? Because, I don't know. Retail is all excited about buying tech stocks at the top and doesn't believe that, the big cryptos can continue higher, like Stonks. When I think, you'll have to subscribe to the YouTube member area to find out what we really think about the near future. But I think it's pretty obvious, right? Retail in Stonks thinking that all-time high is a buy and the crypto highs are not a buy. That with most altcoins, down, flat, or getting hammered, of course, except for one of our top picks, PEAQ and DPIN, which continues to move higher. Now, market maker posture. Michael Saylor has purchased a lot of Bitcoin lately, a lot. And when you think about the amount of Bitcoin he purchased, these market makers never really got the opportunity to get the inventory back, right? So there is the possibility of a chunky short squeeze where these dealers, who are sitting around hoping crypto goes lower, if it doesn't, they may wind up having to buy this thing at the market. So if you don't get any type of material dip on Sunday or Monday, you may have this like slow accumulation start, which could lead to kind of a quick trigger squeeze. Now, the other indicator you want to be looking at is, miners, Bitcoin miners, right? The Ethereum supply creation. Now, at the moment, miner supply, or the supply shock theory, which is everywhere in Ethereum, in Solana, Everyone's like, oh my God, the supply is moving off exchanges. This is all true, but the supply shock is not here yet. Like when people talk about the supply shock, they're like, oh yeah, Ethereum's going to like 20,000 because of the supply shock, and there isn't enough supply. There's a supply shock in Bitcoin. Now, all of this is going to happen, but is it happening right now? Well, the answer is no. So all of these indicators, ETF flows, stablecoin flows into the market maker positioning, and are miners going to have to, I don't know, are they going to have to sell, or are they just going to be able to hold on to their inventory? Right now, most of this stuff is neutral to bullish. But I don't think people are looking at these crypto-specific signals enough, because everyone's too focused on, I don't know, the Fed. I know there's legislation in Congress, which, could be very good for crypto. But at the end of the day, you want to be looking at what is actually going to move the market. And everyone in crypto has become like a macro expert, which, that's okay. Macro sometimes moves crypto, but frequently macro, can produce head fakes, right? Like everybody was buying crypto after the Fed, and then it summarily got dropped. And everybody seemed to sort of wind up at the mercy of traders, right? In other words, these guys are making a living, selling you Solana at 250 and buying it back when you puke around like 230 or 225. It's a straight up and down range. Now, that is probably a good segue into like short-term tactical TA on all the big coins. Recently, you've had a large spike in things like Avalanche and Polkadot. Sort of the last 2 days would be like the pause that's refreshed after these big up moves. You got this kind of sideways to downward consolidation on the 4-hour chart of Avalanche. Polkadot, which, there was a big Polkadot primer in Patreon Platinum 2 weeks ago. You had the big spike up in Polkadot, and then you had kind of a correction. Any type of pause that refreshes, okay, can allow dip buyers to pour in. And guess what? One of the nicer looking charts for signals could be XRP. There's a 13 and a 9 bottom. And if they wind up puking XRP below 294 and really can't hit it, that's what we're looking for, right? Are they going to try to hit the market off the solar eclipse? Well, our Gann work says, you'll have to go and see what it says in the Patreon Platinum area. But, as you look at it, what happens if they have one final go at the downside? Now, if they have a final go and they crack the market, well, that's a juicy opportunity. If they try to crack the market and can't, that would be another juicy opportunity, say, on a reclaim. What does that mean? Well, I mean, if you have XRP sit here below $3 and maybe go and punch down to 294, but then when it turns around and comes back above $3, then you have, I don't know, I would say you have a tremendous buying opportunity there. Now, the worst case scenario in ETH feels like 4,300 to me. That's like worst case. And, I think when there's a lot of talk about a base token, that seemed to hurt Ethereum a little bit, right? T-Bone wants to know, oh my God, T-Bone has now been a Spartan for a year. Congratulations to YouTube members who have had their emojis change. You are a Spartan officer. All right, so what did you miss this week? That's a good segue, right? So everyone thought what the Fed did mattered. It kind of didn't. right? Everyone got all excited after the rate cut. There was nothing to get excited about. If anything, crypto stocks did better than crypto. Matter of fact, everything in stocks did better than crypto, right? All the news, right? Like OpenAI does a partnership with Oracle, massive data center and cloud investment by OpenAI, right? All of the news is about what the big companies are doing. Now, I don't trade the news. We had like, what do we trade? I don't trade the news because the news is, today. Some of these indicators are like what's going to happen tomorrow. Like, I go back to flows. Tom Lee's company is just buying more ETH. And, we'll see who winds up being right, retail or Tom Lee. Especially as if, Elon said, Uncle Sugar is unfixable. You got to think about that for a second. Uncle Sugar as unfixable. So, altcoin picks. You waited. Let's talk about it. So we talked about stablecoin flows into the market. I think if you look at Athena, ENA, right, this was like, the leader in this type of like, I don't know, I guess you could call it the stablecoin trade. Let's leave it kind of there. This coin was absolutely smoking on the way up when ETH was rising. And if I've got my fundamentals correct, if ENA continues to, or restarts to rally rather, right? If it restarts to rally, because it's top 50 now, that can be a signal that the Q4 rally is on. The problem with the Q4 rally is that everyone's looking for the Q4 rally. So ENA is digital dollars for the internet economy. Once that gets going, that could be a signal that there's money flowing in. And remember, when money flows in, hedge funds have to chase. Hedge funds have to chase. And we haven't seen a hedge fund chase yet. We saw it a little bit when ETH went up. Everybody came piling in. But we definitely haven't seen a hedge fund chase in altcoins. You're starting to see some of them come up, like PEAQ, right? Big Gann Pick up 12% today, pounding the table on that. So you're looking for that kind of bottom up move. And we're looking for what's called top down, which is XRP recovering above $3. There are a lot of positive catalysts. Like you could get Bitcoin above 120. You could get ETH above 5,000, and then that brings in FOMO. Naturally, that's what everyone was thinking, which is ironically why everybody is currently getting stopped out and frustrated. A lot of people are like, tell me when my bags are going up, and why can't this market move? Right? Everyone's waiting for the same thing, and when everyone waits for the same thing, frustration can ensue. Right? It's a waiting game. Now, the second altcoin, which is, basically a favorite. First, it was Syrup that, my colleague Toby was really into. And now it's Pendle, right? Tokenized yield order book. In other words, DeFi is getting more and more sophisticated, easier and easier to use. I think there's an ETH program out there now that, essentially uses AI to help you find the best yield in the DeFi universe. Okay. Pendle has a market cap that's still below 1 billion, which again, considering what's getting thrown around in AI, is a joke. It is. It's a joke that the world's top DeFi play, or not the world's, our little world, one of our top DeFi plays, right? It's known as a yield seeker, right? And again, Toby was on this way early, so we don't mind giving it to you now because we want you to get a sample of what we do here, really. So if a top DeFi play is trading under $1 billion, is that not an opportunity? Because everyone's going to go, oh, gee, and Toby did talk about this. Like, oh, gee, shucks, I missed it. You don't want to be one of those people. We don't want you to be one of those people. We want you to come join us. Now, another sub $1 billion market cap play, right, is EtherFi. Okay. Staking, liquid staking, right? In other words, a way to basically stake your crypto, get some yield on it, and then somehow get a receipt for that crypto that you can then go out and trade. In other words, leverage, right? Deposit here, get some yield, and then use that as collateral to get more money to go trade. That was very popular back in, 2021. And of course, it all came unglued in 2022. Now no one wants to touch it. I mean, yeah, people played around with this stuff, but, everyone's like, oh, yeah, Q4 rally was going to get going. Okay. Well, what are the signals? And we talked about that, ETF flows, stablecoin flows, market maker positioning. Will miners buy and sell? And if all those signals give you, kind of the green light, especially after, maybe there's a puke, hey, what are you going to get into that's going to go up the most if crypto goes full banana zone? Are you asking these questions? Is anyone asking these questions? I don't know. JITO, ticker symbol JTO rather. JTO, liquid staking on Solana. Solana printed 250. Looks like it was headed straight for 300. Everyone was like, meh. I mean, there was some excitement after the Fed, but, not really. And now that the market is kind of dead or slumping, I want to catch that last flush. Now, Toby has her opinion on it. This is a rare case where, I don't know, we got a little difference of opinion. Some of our Gann work, I'll have to let you read it. But man, if you get that nasty eclipse flush, you got to get on top of that. And Toby did a lot of small cap picks, which I'm absolutely not giving you today. Even though I love you, I love our members more, our Spartan officers. Listen, the small caps, especially the ones that are down, are the ones that can turn around and come back the most. Now, one thing that Toby has been talking about for a long time is DeFi, which, we have in kind of our top 5 picks of the day, right? We have JITO, we have Pendle, we have ETHFi, right? Finally, we have a layer 1 with high throughput, Caspa, right? Now, I actually know a guy that I think that mines Caspa. And, what our Gann model seems to want to do with Caspa is accumulate positions in layer 1s as they drop. After all, that would have worked very well in Avalanche. PayPal's not working on Avalanche. They must watch the show because I've been talking about this and DeFi on Avalanche, I don't know, for a year. Toby's been talking about Polkadot, and that all woke up. So these are some of the coins that can wake up next. And then you have to be looking at the indicators that give you the go signal. Some of these signals around flows are neutral, but in my mind, it feels bullish. Like if miners don't have to sell, if dealers have to get the Michael Saylor Bitcoin back, and ironically, retail continues to pile into equities, which is the wrong trade. And when they discover it's the wrong trade, either because stocks really don't go anywhere or because crypto outperformance in Q4 is so dramatic, all those normies are going to switch pretty quick. Now, even if that doesn't happen, the bid in crypto equities can continue. I mean, you had crypto stocks last week moving in, say, 10% increments. 10% increments, right? And then, again, I think one good conclusion, which the Eagle King just came up with right now, is Motley Fool, which is, stunk news for, I don't know, noobs or plain vanilla investors. Could XRP be the next Bitcoin? Now, naturally, that's a very popular YouTube title, but now it's a very popular Motley Fool article title. You have to ask yourself about things that have, support in retail already, like XRP. You have to ask yourself what happens if people start pouring into Coinbase and, XRP is holding above $3. That could lead to a hedge fund chase and a retail chase, particularly if ETH prints 5,000 and starts to look expensive, right? Or if Bitcoin takes out 120 and everybody goes, I missed it. There's an entire world of altcoins waiting. Now, that may be stating the obvious, but you've got certain altcoins popping off, and I keep mentioning PEAQ, as one of those plays that keeps moving, but there are altcoins popping off in 10 to 15% increments. And that's a sign that the rest of the market can, because you have to have sector leadership to get a rally. Real rallies need leadership. PEAQ, the machine economy computer. Okay. Ensuring that AI machines and automation benefit all humans. Imagine that. Imagine the robot trade like Vader crypto project that's kind of very popular with one of our ACE Patreon members. The robot trade, the AI trade in legacy has been done. It has not been done in crypto. It has not. And that, ladies and gentlemen, after you get your eclipse dip, after you get your fall equinox bottom, which I don't know, could be coming anywhere in 48 to 72 hours. I mean, if you got one heave Sunday night on, I don't know, anything, any weirdness in legacy, any weirdness, or if you just got a quiet ending to the recent post-Fed decline, you have yourself a setup for a Q4 rally. All right, let's take a welcome as to who's here. Is anybody here? Serpent God is here. Ben from Down Under. T-Bone is in the house. Hey, T-Bone says Ondo will be a monster. Wall Street 2.0, dude. Toby has been on real world assets, pounding the table. The lenders, again, you got to tune in to get the good coins out there. But look, it is absolutely necessary that you pick your favorites in these categories. Routine Cheese is here. Welcome, sir. Farmer Sam Forrest. Big Rich is in the house. Gentlemen, welcome. Right? Welcome. Right? Ishi is here. Hello. Buy the Dip LLC. Oh my God. Army Piper is here. Make sure you subscribe to Army Piper on YouTube and Twitter. Right? One of the smartest guys out there, in my opinion. He's not exactly new and up and coming, but, he'll be a guy that people are listening to 5 years from now, hopefully along with us, Eagle King, and Toby. VK Odin says, thoughts on Sonic. Okay, well, I can pull the chart up here, even though you can't see it. However, me not sharing the screen is nothing new. Ha ha. But this is the shorts feed. Listen, right now, Sonic is actually retesting its low and hitting support down 5%. Okay, I don't know if there's fundamental news going on down there, but Toby continues to want to buy things when they are down. right? In other words, I know we're all looking for the term, but if something negative fundamental happens or if someone pukes it out, hey, that is an opportunity between now and the end of the fall equinox 2 days ago. Tight stops is in. Big Rich is into rise, right? Big Rich and a couple other guys are almost like, one-man hedge funds inside the Patreon group. Okay. Rise looks, it's kind of flat, but it's also flat on top of its discount zone, right? Tony Rizzo, Solana, XRP, and 5 others will become the new Magnificent 7. That's right? You'll have Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and XRP. What are the 3 other coins? Could it be Pendle? Could it be Polkadot? Right? In other words, what DeFi, what real world asset play, what AI play? I mean, we talked about some coins on the YouTube member podcast. The backbone of data management and artificial intelligence. And again, for the coins, you got to tune in. But why are they spending billions in legacy and the projects that are worth millions are being ignored? When that gets rectified, you're going to have price action on the upside that's going to be shocking, where you're going to be asking yourself at the fall equinox, why wasn't I more active? That is the market update for today. We will see you Monday.